Hey, I'm just gonna, I've got kind of like a thread of information that I'd like to get out, but it's a little bit difficult for me to just go like jump right into something, so I kind of have to just start talking to the camera. Um, I'm a little disturbed with the way that so many people are sacrificing their values in this election, and I think that it's actually a great opportunity to vote for what your values really are. Um, and I think that there's the two choices that we're being presented with are really they're they're writing in something that nobody is like really being able to discuss, and it really affects us on a pretty massive level. Um, so there's kind of corporate greed being written in, and it's not open for discussion. And us as a country, like these things really affect us as individuals, and our individual sovereignty and our rights, and um, in such a massive way that we can't really like pretend like they don't. So to to limit the scope of discussion and to be using like language that distorts the reality that we're facing, and doesn't bring the real issues into the scope of discussion, is I mean it's a massive disservice to ourselves. So I would prompt anybody to try to see beyond those distortions and to um, I want to say vote for the Green Party, but guess what? It's not as easy as just like putting it on a party or a person. It's about us individually connecting with like a conscious awareness of what is going on, and to do that, we need to create the language to be able to speak about it. That's where I think the Green Party is actually a really valuable tool. Now, I'm not like all about politics. I'm not all. I don't. I think that like putting our hopes on one person is always about the biggest mistake you could do, and don't disempower yourself that way. But it's really important that we recognize what the issues really are and what our country has really become, because we act like we are the United States of America, with liberty and justice and freedom and things like this. But what's really going on? What the real face of what we've become is more and more apparent every day, and it doesn't match with these stories that we've been giving ourselves. So no matter what, we're going to have to come up with a new name to describe what it is we are. I think that it is more along the lines of a pseudo-governmental, like kind of corporate conglomerate, imperialistic globalist force. So we kind of have to really just be honest about this, because look, to save face for ourselves in the future and our children, and so like what is it that is not being allowed in the scope of discussion? Well, I would say that it's the massive amount of greed that's going on in the consumer's culture. It's the paradigm that we're living under that writes in its own greed, and so that it can sweep up its tracks and just not be held accountable for anything, like 9/11, like the war on terror, like because we right now, in our country, we don't really talk about the fact that we are still at war. We call it a war, but it's really an occupation and stealing resources in Afghanistan, because Afghanistan produces 90% of the world's opium. Afghanistan is a hotbed for special metals that are used in all sorts of technologies, including my phone. So everybody's benefiting from these things. I'd say benefiting, like I mean, like that's kind of how it's justified. I think that this is bigger than just us. This is a global economic thing going on. So even the Afghanis that are hiding out in caves using their cell phones, well, guess what? A lot of the special metals that are used in their new cell phones are also like, it's a part. If they would never be like have that ability to use the cell phone if it wasn't for industries trying to go in and exploit the resources. So it's more complicated than it may seem, but we have to be real with ourselves about what's going on, because um, otherwise then we're just like making ourselves like lobotomized, and we're wasting all this energy. So I see us people that are getting caught in these distortions of back and forth, left and right, and lesser of two evils. They're wasting massive amounts of energy, and so it's just stupid. It's unsustainable. It doesn't make any sense. It's not approaching the issues at a level that addresses them. So what this does is it forces us to go deeper to a point that bypasses that problem. So it forces us to acknowledge a deeper aspect of ourselves that more connects us to our more true self collectively, and so then we can cut out maybe say the things that don't work for us collectively. And it's never been easier to do that because you've got the 0.1% that's just amassing all this wealth, and is it really coming back to the people? Well, I have I'm living in a generation that is locked in debt slavery. Now, I'm not in debt because I'm getting money for PTSD from the military, but that's because we are living a collective lie, and that's affected my life pretty massively. So, but like my entire generation is unable to follow their goals and their passions. They're locked in on things and cutting themselves off from really growing to their fullest potential. And so these tough times and these things that like really challenge us, what it really comes down to is going to a level that goes deeper to fix the problem. And so in this, it's important to recognize that who you really are. Because you don't sell your values short to pick the lesser of two evils. That, in my opinion, that argument is absolutely cockamamie bullshit. So, like who you really are, what are your true values, and what connects you with the other person next to you. So, we need to go to a point deeper that bypasses the issues. And I think there's a German word for this. It's called gestalt. Gestalt is like the moment when like the picture takes form and you say, "Aha!" You get it. You make sense. You understand it. And in that, it's a relieving power of relieving the tension of misunderstanding because you recognize something in its wholeness. So really that's the metaphor of what we need to do. It's like we're a collective organism and we're laid out on the table, and where each one of us individually has the ability to be an acupuncture needle within that organism to have that organism realize its more deeper interconnected self. So when a needle goes in acupuncture, when you get all the needles in you use the needle, the tension that it creates, to let go and go to a deeper energy body that really is the cause of the more external physical tension that you hold. So if you can use these fine points, which we each are, to just try to use our own individual point to be a hinge of energy so that we create the relief needed to connect us all to our more holistic self. That's really where we got to go. And it's not for me to say exactly what that is, what that means as far as a presidential candidate, but it's individually we all have to do that. So I don't think that the two main party candidates in any way represent that. I feel like they're just barreling down the wrong direction. It's like globalism on it's basically we're being forced to accept them, but at the same time their disapproval rating is through the roof, and they don't represent the people. So I'd say in these times I'm going to maintain the vision of idealism and of what is most holistically connecting us to ourselves and to the earth. And I would implore everybody to do the same, because why not at this point? All right, thanks.